front door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames. David Mercer looked up from his laptop, startled. "Sophie?" He barely had time to stand before his daughter stormed past the living room, eyes red-rimmed, her backpack hanging from one shoulder like it weighed 100 pounds. Hey, kiddo." He followed her to the stairs. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she snapped without turning around. He paused at the foot of the stairs, watching her stomp upward. "You've been crying?" he said gently. Sophie stopped halfway, stiffened, then turned around, her voice shaking with fury or frustration. He couldn't tell which. "You wouldn't understand, Dad. Just leave me alone." "Sophie, come on. Talk to me." She turned back toward her room. "You're not even trying to understand. You can't. You're a man in his 30s who thinks Spotify Wrapped is cool. You have no idea what it's like to be me." Her bedroom door slammed shut. David stood alone at the bottom of the stairs, heart sinking. He hadn't expected this phase to start so soon, or maybe he'd just been in denial that the little girl who used to sit on his shoulders now saw him as an alien. David stood outside her room for a long moment, torn between giving her space and doing what his gut told him. Be there, even if she didn't want him to be. He knocked softly. "Sophie?" No answer. He opened the door anyway. Sophie sat on the floor in front of her open closet, surrounded by a heap of clothes. Shirts, jeans, skirts, jackets, all of it thrown out in frustration. Her makeup bag was overturned on the bed, brushes and compacts scattered. She was tugging at the sleeves of a sweater, jaw clenched, eyes wet with fresh tears. "I told you to leave me alone," she muttered, not looking at him. David stepped inside carefully, shutting the door behind him. "I know. But I'm worried about you." Sophie yanked off the sweater and threw it aside. "None of this looks right. I look wrong in everything." David frowned. "What do you mean?" She shook her head, standing abruptly and staring at herself in the mirror on her closet door. "I mean, I hate how I look, okay? I hate it. I don't feel like me. And everyone at school has perfect bodies and perfect faces, and I'm just this." He stepped closer. "Sophie." She turned toward him sharply, eyes blazing. "You wouldn't get it. You've never looked in the mirror and hated everything. You've never had people judge you just by standing there." David opened his mouth, then closed it again. "No offense, Dad," she added bitterly, "but your idea of a bad day is when the coffee machine breaks. You don't know what it's like to be in this body." She pointed at herself like it was something separate from her, something foreign and broken. David felt something tighten in his chest. He wanted to fix it, but he didn't even know where to begin. Then, as if fate was listening too closely, something strange began to stir, deep, ancient, and impossible. David took a step toward her. "Sophie, No," she said, voice sharp and trembling. She didn't look at him. "Just go." He hesitated. "Please don't shut me out." She turned her back. "Good night, Dad." He stood there a few seconds longer, unsure whether to say something else, do something else. But the way her shoulders curled inward told him the conversation was over. Quietly, he stepped out and closed her door behind him. They didn't speak again that night. Sleep came slowly. David lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her words echoing in his head. "You don't know what it's like to be in this body." He wanted to understand. God, he wanted to. But parenting didn't come with a translator for teenage pain. And somewhere else, beneath words, beneath understanding, something listened. David dreamed of mirrors, endless hallways of them. But they didn't show him. They showed her. Sophie walking alone, laughing with friends, crying into her pillow. In one, she stood still and stared directly at him through the glass, lips moving without sound. He stepped closer. Her eyes narrowed. "You'll see." Sophie dreamed of noise. Phones ringing, emails pinging, a calendar full of meetings she didn't understand. She was taller, her shoulders broader. People looked to her and called her David and expected her to know what to do. Her reflection was wrong. It was him, a man in his 30s who didn't get it. She opened her mouth to speak, but his voice came out. She backed away from the mirror. Both of them gasped awake at the same time. David blinked up at a ceiling that wasn't his. Glow in the dark stars. Posters. A pink lava lamp humming on the nightstand. Everything was smaller, softer. He sat up quickly and froze. His hair fell into his face, long and light brown. His arms were thinner, wrists narrower. His pajama top clung in strange places. He looked down at his body. "Oh my God," he whispered in a voice that wasn't his. Then he screamed. Across the hall, Sophie bolted upright in bed, heart hammering. Her room, no, his room, felt enormous. The walls were bare. The air felt colder. Her breath came in sharp gasps, deeper than usual. She looked down at her hands, large, hairy. The blanket slid off and revealed legs covered in coarse hair, boxers, a t-shirt. She ran to the mirror and stumbled. Her reflection stared back. A man. Her dad? She screamed, too. Sophie stared at the reflection in stunned silence. Her dad's face blinked back at her. Short beard, thick eyebrows, those tired blue eyes she was so used to seeing behind a steering wheel or across the dinner table. Her jaw dropped and she ran her hands, his hands, over the stubble on her chin. Then she flexed her fingers. "Huh," she muttered. Her voice was deep, smooth. "Weird." She turned side to side, watching his reflection. Broad shoulders, strong arms, the hint of a beer belly. She wasn't horrified. Not exactly. More like curious. She rolled her neck and actually smiled a little. "Okay. This is kind of cool." Across the hall, David was not okay. He had stumbled to the mirror in Sophie's room, gripping the desk for balance as he stared at the teenage girl blinking back at him. Her face was flushed, lips parted, chest heaving. This isn't possible," he said, voice high and bright with panic. "This is insane. This is not happening." He backed away, nearly tripping over a pile of shoes. He reached for the door, hesitated, then looked down again. "Oh my God. My legs, my arms. How are they so? Why is everything so small?" he said, waving his arms wildly. "And what is happening with my center of gravity? My hips are, what even?" He looked down at the pajamas clinging to his frame and immediately looked away again, turning crimson. From across the hallway, he heard his own voice call out, amused, "Dad?" David flinched. He turned to the door just as it creaked open, and there he was, his own body, peeking in with a cautious smile. "Don't freak out," Sophie said from inside his body, holding up his hands. David screamed again. Sophie winced. "Okay, yeah, you're freaking out." "Of course I'm freaking out. You're me, and I'm you. This is a nightmare." He ran a hand through her hair and nearly groaned at how unfamiliar even that felt. "What happened? Is this some kind of breakdown? Hallucination?" Sophie walked in and stood across from him, towering now. David had never realized how tall he actually was until he had to look up to meet his own eyes. "Whoa," he said, stepping back. "I'm huge." Sophie smirked. "You're welcome." David pointed at her. "Don't be smug. This is serious." "I am serious," she said, crossing her arms. "Okay, I was weirded out at first too, but now that I'm standing, I don't know. It's kind of empowering." David's eye twitched. "Empowering?" "Sophie, this is your father's body. You have a 401k now." Sophie snorted. "Okay, that part is gross. But have you seen how strong you are?" She flexed his arm and raised an eyebrow. "I could open every pickle jar in existence." David sank onto the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. This can't be happening. There was a long pause. Finally, Sophie sat beside him. The bed shifted under her added weight. "I think this happened for a reason," she said carefully. "Like the universe is trying to teach us something." David groaned into his hands. "Can the universe not?" Sophie patted his back, her own back. "Hey, look on the bright side. Maybe now you'll finally understand what it's like to be me." David looked up at her miserably. Sophie grinned. "I've got school today." "Okay," Sophie said brightly, jumping up to look in her closet. "Uniform first. Do we go with the skirt or the trousers?" David blinked. "Trousers. Obviously." She paused and gave him a look. "Dad, come on. The skirt is way more breathable. Plus, it's like part of the look." "I'm not interested in the look, Sophie. I'm interested in surviving this nightmare with what little dignity I have left." She grinned, unbothered. "Skirt, it is." "Sophie." "Dad," she said, mimicking his exasperated tone perfectly. We're in this situation for who knows how long. If I have to go to your job and pretend I know what a spreadsheet does, you can put on a skirt and pretend you're not ancient. David let out a long, suffering sigh as she tossed him a pleated gray skirt and a white blouse. Oh, she added, already back in the closet. Tights or bare legs? Tights? It's 75 degrees. Okay, bare legs it is. But that means you've got to shave. David froze. Shave what? Sophie gave him a long, meaningful look. Everything. Absolutely not. Suit yourself, she said with a shrug. But leg stubble plus school skirt equals social death? David groaned and rubbed his temples. I can't believe I'm living through this. Sophie reappeared with a bra and a set of underwear. Here, these are comfy. You're going to want the sports bra, trust me. He stared at them like they were radioactive. I don't know how to put these on, Sophie. You'll figure it out. I had to teach myself too. There was a beat of silence. Then Sophie tilted her head. Actually, weirdly empowering to hand you a bra. David gave her a deadly glare, holding up the garment like it might bite him. This is revenge, isn't it? Maybe a little. She beamed. Okay, hair next. You've got two options, low ponytail or half up, half down. Half up says confident but chill, ponytail says I didn't try, but I'm still cute. David muttered something under his breath and reached for the brush. He managed a low ponytail that was slightly off-center, then glared at her for approval. She winced. Yikes. Try again. Pull tighter and leave a few face-framing strands. You're not a gym teacher. After 3 failed attempts and a moment where the hairband snapped off and hit him in the eye, he finally got it. Okay. You're presentable now, Sophie declared, stepping back and nodding. But we haven't done makeup. Nope, hard line. I'm not putting paint on my face. You don't have to go full glam, she said, already rummaging through her makeup bag. Just a bit of concealer. You've got dark circles. And maybe mascara. People will notice if you don't look like you. David looked at her, horrified. Mascara? She waved the wand in the air. Come on, blink. He did, badly, and ended up poking himself in the eye. Sophie howled with laughter while David clutched his face. This is cruel and unusual, he muttered. Oh, it's beautiful, she said, dabbing at his cheeks with a sponge. Now smile for the mirror. He looked. Sophie's face stared back. Neat ponytail, faint eyeliner, flushed cheeks, pressed school uniform. I look like you, he said. Exactly, she replied, tossing him a pair of loafers. Now all you have to do is survive 7 hours of hormonal chaos, passive-aggressive friend drama, and calculus. David stood slowly, wobbled slightly in the skirt, then glared. You're enjoying this way too much. Yup. David stood stiffly in front of the mirror as Sophie circled him like a drill sergeant with better eyebrows. Okay, she said, tapping her chin. Now we fix your walk. What's wrong with my walk? You stomp. Like a retired army man with bad knees. You've got to glide. Glide? Yeah, she said, already demonstrating in his body with exaggerated swaying steps. Small strides. Relax your shoulders. Keep your hips loose. Confidence without aggression. David tried. He looked like he was marching into battle, shoulders tense, skirt swaying awkwardly. Okay, no, Sophie said, laughing. You look like someone who lost a bet. I did lose a bet, David muttered. Sophie took his arm and corrected his posture. Chest up, arms relaxed, and bend your knees a little. You're not on stilts. After a few minutes and one very near trip over a shoe, he finally managed a somewhat convincing walk. Better, she said, now sitting. You can't just flop down like you do as a guy. You have to mind the skirt. Mind the what now? Skirt, she repeated. You sit with your knees together, or crossed, or ankles tucked behind you. No wide leg manspreading unless you want a viral photo on someone's Snapchat. He sat slowly, awkwardly pressing his knees together like he was clenching a secret. I hate this. You'll get used to it, she said sweetly. Also, voice. Don't forget to raise your pitch just a little when you talk. Your I hate this just now sounded like Morgan Freeman giving up. He sighed dramatically. This is my own personal hell. Perfect. That was almost the right tone. Finally, David turned to her, arms crossed. Okay, now it's your turn. If I have to survive your entire high school day, you need help handling adult life. Sophie was already seated at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, black, and scrolling through his work email on his phone. Nah, I'm good. David blinked. What do you mean you're good? She looked up, completely relaxed in his body. I figured out your calendar. You have a budget meeting at 9:30 and a one with someone named Cheryl after lunch. I already typed up a few notes in case anyone asks me about second quarter projections. He stared at her. You read my emails? I'm you, remember? She said, shrugging. And your password was David 123. So that's on you. He squinted. How are you doing this so easily? Sophie smirked. It's almost like maybe I have been paying attention. You're not the only one who thinks you're carrying the weight of the world. David opened his mouth, but no words came. Sophie stood up, straightening the collar of her blouse. Now go. The school bus comes in 3 minutes. And don't sit in the front. That's social exile territory. Where do I sit? Somewhere near the back, but not the very back. That's for the terrifying kids who vape and talk about jail like it's a vacation. He hesitated at the door. You really think I can pull this off? She looked at him, herself, and smiled. You'll be fine, Dad. Just try not to make too much eye contact with anyone. And don't eat the cafeteria chili. She gave him a little wave and closed the door behind him. The morning sun was too bright. The bus stop felt way too exposed. When the yellow school bus pulled up with a hiss and the doors opened, David climbed the steps with all the grace of a giraffe in heels. 30 teenagers turned to look at him, her, as he stepped on. He paused. Where do I sit? The front row was empty. Obvious trap. The back was full of kids with bleached hair and Bluetooth headphones. He settled awkwardly in the middle, next to a girl with glittery nails, and immediately crossed his legs, like Sophie taught him. His skirt tugged slightly. He tugged it back down. As the bus rumbled to life, David slouched, adjusted his hair, and sighed deeply. This was going to be the weirdest day of his life. And maybe, just maybe, he'd finally understand.
You can shake it anyway. Oh. Don't push back.